Do you still not understand? I love that line. I love the image of Jesus in the boat with the disciples and Jesus going through all this and then saying, do you still not understand? And them looking at him, scratching their head saying, not really, not really. And sometimes I guess we find ourselves scratching our head saying, not really. Jesus is talking about Pharisees and Herod, about bread and leaven, about wicker baskets full of leftovers. In the prior passage, the Pharisees came to argue with Jesus, seeking a sign. Jesus speaks of the leaven of the Pharisees. Leaven, as you know, is a material that helps the bread to grow, the yeast to grow. And of course, the Jewish custom around Passover is to bake the bread without the leaven. In order to do that, though, because just a little bit of leaven can cause the bread to rise a great deal, one would have to clean out the house, get rid of all the old leaven so that nothing contaminates the new batch. And then after the Passover, to begin with a new batch of leaven, a new batch of bread. Well, Jesus is coming with something new himself. What is the New Testament and the Old both use that image of leaven, though, in a spiritual sense. And so what is the leaven of the Pharisees? What's the leaven of Herod? It's really more of an attitude. It's a certain cynicism, a certain self-protection, that in Herod's case, a certain desire to catch someone, that gotcha mentality, a certain kind of tearing down. We see it throughout the Gospels. The insecurity of Herod, which results in violent actions, and the cynicism of the Pharisees and the scribes. Jesus is proclaiming a new leaven. When Jesus preaches the gospel, the leaven that Jesus brings to this new yeast is the good news of salvation. It's life-giving. It's nourishing. It builds unity. Jesus refers to the feeding of the crowds on the mountainside with just a few loaves of bread. And he says how much is left over. In other words, Jesus came that we might have life and have it in abundance. When St. Paul uses the image of leaven, sometimes he uses it to talk about get rid of the old yeast. A little bit of leaven can get in the way. But we also hear in the New Testament how leaven, we ourselves are called to be leaven in the world. With our little bit of faith and our good example, we might be able to transform the society around us. So the choice that Jesus gives to the disciples in the days long gone by, and the choice that Jesus gives to his disciples today, to you and to me, is what kind of leaven do we want to be? Do we want to be the leaven that builds up, that pulls together, that is life-giving, or the leaven of cynicism, of tearing down, of pulling apart? The gospel brings that fresh leaven to the new batch of yeast, but he leaves it up to his followers to decide how they want to be leaven in this kingdom.